Hello, my name's Steve and I work as a contract quality engineer in the automotive industry. I'm also the director of my own company, which I've done for 14 years now, but I've worked in engineering, particularly automotive engineering, for over 30 years now. So what I'm going to do is talk to you about the importance of communication and the way we use English in our industry. So because I work as an engineer, and just to let you know what engineers do pretty much all day is solve problems, what we need to do is either work in teams or small groups to be given a challenge and overcome that challenge by thinking about ideas. Some of these ideas are quite straightforward, others are really weird and wacky, and some of the best ideas come from that weird and wackiness. And we all get together and thrash out ideas. But the important thing is, once we've done that, we need to communicate our ideas to the rest of the team and perhaps the rest of the company so that we can get on and solve the problem. Right now, the automotive industry is faced with a huge challenge. It's been decreed by our government and many other governments around the planet that by the year 2030, the sale of petrol and diesel cars will no longer be allowed. So we must all be driving around in vehicles which are powered with something other than petrol or diesel. And at the moment, the main focus on that is by electric vehicles. Electric vehicles can be powered by either hydrogen power, which is quite unusual, quite rare, and very few manufacturers are actually pursuing that. Or the other means of powering electric vehicles is by the use of batteries. Now, batteries have a problem. The problem we have with batteries is, firstly, they need to be made from materials and minerals that are dug up from the ground. And sometimes these are quite hard to access, quite hard to mine, and then they need to be refined. Now that creates all sorts of problems. But the primary problem with batteries, particularly battery used in automotive vehicles, is that the range of that car really isn't that far at all. Petrol and diesel cars can travel hundreds and hundreds of miles before they need filling up. But at the moment, electric vehicles can generally travel for no more than 150 to perhaps 200 miles before they need recharging. And that can either be done at home or hopefully along the way on their journey. So engineers have a massive problem at the moment. We need to develop batteries which are more and more powerful. Scientists and chemists need to get the mixture of the chemicals right so that our batteries are more and more powerful, which can take the vehicle much, much further. But all of this comes around to solving a problem. As we're solving the problem, we need to communicate with lots of other engineers and scientists and technicians and chemists, and these can be anywhere around our planet. So the use of communication is sometimes down to the telephone, emails, or electronic conferencing such as Zoom or Skype, or even giving videos, rather like this. So it's quite important that when we communicate, we actually get our level of communication exactly right. And what I mean by that is this. If we're preparing a very technical report with lots of technical details in, we need to ensure that who is the person who's actually receiving this information, and will they actually understand it? Now, if it's one person who's very technical and is communicating with another person who's very technical, then that's fine. That report can perhaps contain all of the knowledge and the detail so that both parties, the sender and the receiver, can understand it. But what if that technical report was going to a manager's desk and all the manager wanted to know is the problem solved or not? They don't necessarily need to know all the technical detail. Similarly, if that technical report was being sent to somebody who's less technically minded or doesn't need to know or perhaps understand the technical detail, then the report needs to focus on something totally different and just give some facts about solving the problem. So it's important the way we use English. We need to be clear. We need to be concise. That means not waffling on or giving too many people too much detail. It's about getting the detail exactly right so the person who's receiving that communication can understand it clearly. Now, the way we talk to our friends at school is probably totally different to the way we would talk to complete strangers or our parents or our teachers. So we need to get the level of that communication just right. We have to be respectful at all times, and it really doesn't matter who we're communicating with. We should always be respectful of their knowledge, and ask ourselves the question, will they understand what we're actually trying to tell them? It's quite an important thing to do. There are different forms of communication. Obviously, we can write it down, we can read it, we can speak it, and we can listen to it. So each of those formats of our communication have to be just right. So it's very important that we use pronunciation quite clearly. And if we're writing something, we need to write it down with good grammar, making sure that commas and full stops and capital letters are exactly in the right place. Otherwise, sometimes a sentence can mean something completely different to how we meant it. So that's important to realise. As engineers, we work in a world of different languages, and many people have English as their second language. So it's important to consider just how well do the people who don't have English as their first language, how well do they understand English? So we need to be quite clear as to who are we aiming this at and what is their level of understanding of English. So that's important to think about too. When we send text messages, we often abbreviate long words to very short meanings, like LOL, for example. Now that's fine in a text message amongst your friends, but if we're writing a report, a letter, an essay, something called a dissertation, anything like that needs to be written in good, plain English. No quirky abbreviations, as that don't count. What you need to make sure is that the abbreviations you do use, if you do use them, are understood by both parties, both the sender and the receiver. Now, bearing in mind the report you write or the essay you write might not just be read by one person. It could be read by hundreds or thousands of people. So bear that in mind whenever you write any document. So that's a little bit about me and my background and the way I use English and the way I communicate. And whatever industry you're thinking about going into, be mindful of how you're going to communicate. It's really important and it's a great skill to have. Good luck now. Bye-bye.